Okay, I believe we're good to go.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. Let me start by calling the roll. Joan Ramsey is not here. Warren Hamilton.
Present.
Larry Bolt, that's me. Patricia Sibilia.
Here.
Tom Klingon.
I'm here.
Sita Subarum is not here. Leif Hartmark.
I'm here.
Julia Reed is not here, and Mark McCumber. We are also joined by Jeff Weiss and Marissa Desperdino from New York Law School, as well as Connie Graves and Larry Malden and Deshauna Owens-Cohen from the MMD. And we also have Lars Dahl present from the public. The last meeting of the commission was on September 17th. September 19th, excuse me. And the minutes were distributed. If there are no comments or corrections on the minutes, could I get a motion to approve?
I would make that motion.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second? Thank you, Leif. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The minutes are approved. I would like to take things in a little bit different order than I had put them in the agenda. And there probably are a couple of items that have come up since I issued the agenda. But the first thing that I think that makes sense for us to talk about in light of the legislature's return of local law ends is where the MMD subcommittee is going to go. I spoke with Marie earlier today. They had been trying to get together in a meeting over the weekend. That did not occur. They are hoping to get together.
I'm sorry, I wonder if I could use the library director. Oh, sure. Briefly, you guys. So the library closes at 9. The last employee leaves precisely at 10. And someone told me that your stay is over there for your last meeting. So I know so 9:30, 9:45 is fine, but I just say 9:45 is kind of fine. Okay, fine. Well, thanks.
And thank you really for your assistance in allowing us to do this. You'll see us again, I think.
Yeah, well, we're glad you're here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you want this open?
You can close.
Okay.
As I said, I spoke with Marie earlier today. The meeting that they had hoped to have over the weekend, they were unable to connect as to time and place for most of the members of the subcommittee, and so they have not met. Nicole is working on a place for them to meet, and they're trying to get together a time at some point during this coming week. But at this point, they have not met. In the meantime, Sam and Preeti from Arcbridge are out of the country until October 28th. So there is not going to be any remapping, and certainly between now and 28th of October. Connie or Larry, I don't know if there was anything else that you would want to say with regard to where the MMP is at the moment.
No, not at just.
No, not at this point. Like you pretty much covered it. We're trying to get a date and a location where we can meet, and Marie is trying very hard to see if she can find somewhere. We've all kind of been looking around, but so far we haven't had any luck. So I guess we'll have to fill you in on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And just to add, I had a conversation with her about the technology and what we're doing here, and that was hopeful for her. So.
Okay.
So then I guess probably the thing that makes the most sense for us to do is to just generally discuss where we are, discuss the statements that we received from the legislative majority, the press release that was issued, and what are folks' predispositions on where we should go from here.
Let me say at the outset, we have, I believe, today received through Nicole, the clerk of the legislature, the return,
The revised one, right?
revised return of the local law. In my opinion, that starts the 60 days. I've asked Nicole to confirm that because that's going to be important. We try to figure our time. So we have 60 days. I thought it had started last Tuesday when the legislature turned us down. I think more likely it's today, but we got back to what we want.
Jeff, did you have a?
Yes, I had a conversation with County Attorney Kevin Canizari, and he was basically two opinions. First was that the county legislature, I guess, rejected the plan. Was it on the 11th?
Yes.
And then subsequently, Nicole sent a more formal document as the clerk of the legislature, I believe on the 13th. And I also heard that there might have been an amendment to either of those documents sent today. And if something comes today or came today, and if it was not that much more different than the original one from last week, then last week's action begins the 60-day period. Now, because there were two different documents last week, the 11th and the 13th, I'm running both documents by Kevin for his opinion on the official 60 days, and would prefer to go by that. But he said that the county law here, because of the various number of documents, is a little vague, so that no one would probably doubt the commission, but it might be safe to go with the earliest date, just in case, unless Kevin comes back and says conclusively that there is a later date. And just a question, did anything come today?
Yes, today, on the 11th was the actual legislative vote.
Can you send me a copy of what you received today?
I did.
Okay, I'll have to look for it.
Okay. I did send it to you. I will resend.
I'll take a look.
What came today was the same local law in that we received the other day, except that the previous version said that it had passed, was certified as having passed. Today's is correct, certified as having failed.
Okay, what you sent me, was this the document local law N defeated?
Yes.
Okay, let me just see. I'm taking a quick look at it just to see the date on it.
But
Okay,
to-
yeah, this
Professor
this
White,
is the document that I got last week, dated the 13th. Nicole signed it on the 13th.
But that was wrong. Because what she certified on the 13th was that it had been adopted.
Okay, well, if you would just resend me the correct document, just to make sure.
I did that earlier today.
Okay,
to be clear, there was another communication from them that you haven't referenced yet, which was their public statement about the actual rejection. And I think we got that,
The 14th, I believe.
no, 14th is Friday. No, we got first I think it's either the 13th or the 12th that we got the public statement. I'd have to go look at the emails, that we got the public statement that they issued.
Which was the same thing that they had read into the record.
Not quite.
I'm not sure about it. I checked it word for word.
Did anyone read it versus the,
I did, word for word.
oh, then we're okay. Then it's okay, because I took notes and my notes maybe were a little different.
The local law says 60 days from when it is returned. And I believe the return is the action of the clerk of the legislature.
The clerk, yep.
Telling us, here's a document back, it was failed. And I think that was dead, but Professor Weiss, you try to get it.
Yeah, well, Kevin told me the only that he would go by, I guess the 12th, unless there were, let's say, several pages of substantive additions. So he felt most comfortable going with the earliest date that indicated rejection.
Okay.
I have a question here.
It gets to the point where we have 60 days. We're not gonna take 60 days out. I mean,
Well, we don't know yet because we potentially could need to hold a public hearing. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
But we also have to hold a public hearing. It potentially have to hold a public hearing.
You
You
know,
get substantial changes.
Yes.
So I don't think we can opine on the yes, we'll take 60 days or not until we know more. Larry, I think you were trying to say something?
Yeah,
No, Larry Malden.
Larry Mullen, I'm sorry. You're muted, Larry.
Larry, you're muted if you want to speak.
All right. Can you hear me now?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Huh? Okay, so
Yes.
this 60 days, we are bound to try to get this done in 60 days. My question is, what if we can't get it done in 60 days? Then what happened? Do we ask for an extension or
Well,
how does that work?
my answer to that is that the county charter, the local law indicates the word shall submit. So shall is a directive, but it doesn't say what the report consists of. So the report could ostensibly consist of a letter saying that you could not agree on a new plan by then, or any plan. That's vague. It doesn't say you have to submit a new map, but just simply a new report.
And let's say that happens. And we submit a report saying, hey, we were unable to come up with a new map within the
Well,
60-day time frame.
Okay.
Then what happens?
Well, the bottom line is that, let's say it's January, early February of next year, and there's no plan in place that the legislature votes to approve, and the county executive also signs and approves. Then anybody, a voter in Albany County needs to go to state court and file an action asking the court to ensure that a plan is put in place for the next election. You have elections in 2023, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you have to have a plan in place for the probable March 1st petitioning period, so that a court would want to have a plan in place by probably early February, which means that somebody's got to go to court and file an action to make this all happen. It's not guaranteed. Now, I say that there's no automatic court review, but I've never seen a situation where somebody fails to go to court, although that is always a possibility. But it would take a court to do that. A judge could say, I'll give the commission and the legislature, one more week. But then again, it depends on the timing. It is not out of the question, but probably not likely that a judge could order an election, use the current map next year, but then possibly order an election in 2024 with a new map. I mean, and a judge can really do anything in terms of the power to draw a map and the power to change, the primary schedule. Or, judge could also order a map for, let's say, March or April or May, and have a special election in the county in addition to the statewide primary in June, just for the county legislature. That's what happened with the state senate and congressional map this year.
Special master too as well, right?
And if the, yes, and if the legislature and the commission fail to agree, a judge could conceivably draw the map, her himself. I've seen that happen in Erie County, but most likely they'll bring in an outside person to draw the map.
That would be a potential disaster. Yeah, so people don't like our map, but you know what? We don't know what you'll get, especially next. Let's leave it at that.
Oh, let's cross that bridge when it comes, guys.
Yeah. I mean, my suggestion, frankly, just to, move things along is to, once you discuss overall what your thoughts are, is to move towards the possibility of alternative maps that might not be as legally safe as the one you adopted. If I could have 3 or 4 minutes, I'll explain. Should I do? So essentially, you're in a position now where the legislature has given very scant reason for rejecting the plan. Ostensibly, it's because of a concern of minority vote dilution, but they have no proof of minority vote dilution. They have no proof or suggestion of what a minimum population or maximum population should be for a minority district. And it appears that by maintaining 5 minority districts, you're going to satisfy the current incumbents. We don't know that for a fact, but that's what it appears to look like. So legally speaking, give me 1 second here. I had some notes. Yeah, I mean, basically, if you go back to a 5 minority district plan, the way things are now, I think the county could be sued again and probably lose a lawsuit. It would depend on if you go back to a 5 district minority district plan, that you can create a 6th district, but a 6th district that is 50% or more majority Black population, because where that would satisfy, I think, what the legislature is looking at, to have 50% plus districts, but that under the Voting Rights Act, when you create a new assured district, or see, right now there are 5 effective districts, period. And we indicated that those 5 districts are most likely to continue to elect minority preferred candidates. However, the additional 2 districts, which were drawn for 2 reasons. One was that the majority of the public comment asked for it. And the second is that the voting analysis demonstrated that those districts were not assured or guaranteed of electing minority preferred candidates, but they were most likely to do so. There was a good chance of it. And that would have pretty much insulated the county from any kind of liability. So at this point, if there's a lawsuit, depending on the plan that's finally adopted, the plaintiffs could meet the first prong of the Jingles test, 50% plus, and a lawsuit could be filed that argues that a 5 district plan, could violate the Voting Rights Act, because if an additional minority district can be created, or then the Voting Rights Act would require that, as well as the New York State John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act, which even can include the 2 districts, the 7 districts, because the state law that goes into effect next year allows for coalition districts. There's no 50% minority requirement, that the county could be liable a year from now. That's probably not a consideration the county legislature even thought of. So my suggestion right now is to see if the mappers can go back, draw 5 districts with the highest minority populations, well, maybe not the highest, but the best minority populations they can work with, but also to see if they can draw a 6th district that is majority 50% or more Black, and see where we are at that point. So
Can I ask one quick question on that? Since people have already seen the 7th district, that will open us up with the vulnerability that, hey, we've already shown us you can do 7, So now we're vulnerable from a lawsuit if we only go with 6 as a maximum.
Well, part of it is political compromise to, meet part way. The 2 additional districts that the MMD suggested were not probable to elect. They were likely to elect. The 5 original districts are, probable to elect.
I know.
The additional,
One.
sorry,
I think one is likely based upon Dr. Hanley's analysis. 4 were probable and 1 was likely.
she told
the
me
current
today
5.
Her analysis showed that 5 of them would be maintained. What I'm saying is you should go back and draw 5 districts that are most probable, safe districts, and 1 more at 50%. And we can't answer that tonight because we don't have that in front of us. But we need to, work with a few additional options and then have the analysis done on those maps. And I think that might also, I don't know, we're not going to know where the incumbents live. We can't do that, but it might end up pairing people. I mean, another problem is that the county legislature gave you a law to work with that they don't like the result of. And you can't get around that, and they can, turn it down, but then they're creating themselves into a situation that can open the county up to liability, because of a Voting Rights Act or a New York State challenge next year.
Donna?
On the other districts, then you're saying that they should be more than 50%?
Well, I want to see, I'd like to see what they could be drawn as. I don't want
Just
to
the
use
5.
the 5. I want to see if a 6th district can be created at 50% or more. And I want to see what the other 5 districts would look like as a result.
A question, just to make sure there's clarity here, that we're talking when we're saying 50, whatever, voting age population.
Voting age population, that's
of
correct,
Black,
right.
Hispanic.
Well, Hispanic population under the state law is that's what the state law talks about, is that the state law protects coalition districts, so that you should take into consideration Black and Hispanic populations. However, the racial voting analysis can't be done on the Hispanic vote because it isn't significant enough. But also Judge Khan, in his decision 7 years ago, suggested coalition districts. So if you don't create a coalition district, you'll be sort of between a rock and a hard place, that next year, after July 1st, the county could be sued for the failure to create coalition districts.
Professor, I really, the current prior 5 districts, when we created these new districts, I had asked a few questions, and had hoped the voting age population of Black only was not reduced in those prior levels. It obviously made sense that if the population changed, we would not take that voting age population Black that was already solid and go any lower. In addition to having a combined district, which is great, so we're sort of 2 tracks at the same time. I was adamant, at least in my position, I aspired that the voting age population Black would not be reduced, even though we were adamant we were going to start combining with Black and Hispanic. So that's kind of the crux of diluting, right? If the voting age of the minority Black only did not go lower, they weren't diluted. They could only be added to the system.
Yeah, I can't hear everything you're saying, but
Right, he needs to be closer to the mic.
yeah, but essentially, if you had a district that was, let's say, 50 or 51% minority in 2015, and it's grown, it's matured over the years, that it's still it's electing the minority preferred candidate at less than less than 50%, and you maintain the district as an effective district because it's still electing the minority preferred candidate with the a modest level of polarized voting. But, you know, I'm being hypothetical here because every district has to be judged by its own numbers. So that's where I'm suggesting that the mappers go back and try to create 6 districts where the 6th district is 50% plus minority because it doesn't exist already, but that you create a you maintain the other 5 districts, and I don't know what the percent minority VAP would be because I haven't seen them yet. And be mindful that the state law goes beyond that and pretty much lines up with the 7 district scenario. But that law won't take effect until after the primary next year. I have no idea if somebody in Albany County will sue under state law. Maybe it might never happen, or it might happen. You see, there's no way to tell. You're up against what seems to be minority protection concerns, you know, against maximizing the most effective minority districts.
Yeah, Mark, just real quick, I have a question. I think we're jumping to a solution rather than analyzing how we got there. Because during our mapping sessions, the MMDs, for the most part, that session had 5 MMDs. And then the last month, they jumped from 5 to 7. We have to
That's
analyze
because
5 to 7, and was that a good reason? Or because right now we're just gonna, all right, let's just go to 6. We can analyze why they went to 7.
because the analysis wasn't available until after a certain point in time. I'd have to.
Jump from 5 to 7, was that a solid answer? Was it a good mapping decision, or wasn't it? And we have to take that decision. That's what I'm wondering, why we go from 5 to 7 if we have.
As I recall, Dr. Hanley was first concerned that 5 districts be maintained. But then when she was able to run further analysis, it indicated that with population changes in the county, hold one second.
Sure. No, yeah, I understand this. Now if we're gonna jump back, I thought it was 6. Wasn't it 6?
It's 6, but I don't think they posted.
Yeah.
I will be back in 1 minute.
It showed up at a meeting and then Joe was debating with Steve or something.
At one point, they did have 6.
Right, they never adopted it, they did look at it. So the conversation that I'm hearing from Jeff really bolsters my own conclusion that really there's not much for us to do until the NMD weighs in on where they're going and how they're going to proceed. I don't know if anyone else is sharing that view.
That was an assumption I had.
If I think you need to just speak a little louder, just because the microphone, sorry.
I think that's a valid assumption, when MMD did change from 5 to 6, instead of, we had to reconfigure all the surrounding districts outside of the state. We can do that again. We got an anticipation what the outcomes was really first.
Yeah, see, I don't think we have enough information from the legislators that, okay, what were their objections? Was it just dilution, or was there other underlying factors? They said they were going to slide us more rationale. Good.
Yeah, as I was saying, and I had a food delivery, sorry about that. Dr. Hanley was concerned at first that 5 districts be maintained. But once she was able to do further analysis on the draft maps, it became apparent that not only would the 5 districts be maintained, but the possibility of 2 additional districts became apparent. She didn't know that at the outset. That's why it went from 5 to 7. Plus, the public was testifying in favor of 7 districts.
Is there a danger in reducing the number of MMDs of being accused of packing?
That could have, excuse me, that could happen if you, well, if you reduce the number of minority districts and then inflate the remaining 5 districts unnecessarily, yes, you'd be running into a problem that the Supreme Court set out in a 2017 decision of Cooper versus Harris, where if you have a district that is, let's say, 50% or less minority voting age population, and it is effectively electing the minority preferred candidate, and then you artificially or purposefully add population to that district, then you're running into not a Voting Rights Act problem, but a 14th Amendment equal population racial gerrymandering problem.
So I did have some thought about alternatives. And one alternative is that we go back with the original maps. If we do that, we need to explain why we feel we should go back with the original maps. Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
We don't have any alternative, instead of you back to state. like you-
With explanation.
Yeah, we looked at it.
With explanation as to why we are doing that. Obviously, one portion could be of that explanation because we do not want to open the county up for a lawsuit. But that's one pathway we can consider. Another pathway that I wanted to look at, and I did go back and read the original local law, is that we actually have a dialogue / mapping session with a small set of representatives from the legislature, and it would be publicly broadcast and completely transparent, and ask them to participate in what changes they'd like to see. These are people who drew maps in the past. We've heard from them in public hearings that at one point one said, we don't obviously know what we're doing. They've done this before and we haven't, and we're just, the difference between a PhD doctor doing surgery, right? We heard that. So we invite them to the table and make it, and honestly, I think we'll get, they obviously can't speak about publicly in that session potential other things that bother them that are problematic.
Would they be inherently political, just hypothetically, since they are?
Here.
Well, not if they're, what they should be raising should be their concerns that are legal concerns.
Oh, yeah, I'll say that verbally, but I mean.
They'll have to give specifics.
I'm like the majority leader.
Can't hear Warren.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're definitely having a problem. No, because you need to get heard. So I want to try.
Closer, you go, I see.
If he could come over.
Tricia, it's the mic. You can take it off that and set it in the middle. It's like
This
that.
is the mic, and I don't know if it's.
No,
I don't
that's
know,
not
where is the mic?
Mic's-
No, this is a remote control. So how about I try moving it into the center of the room?
Be careful if you're got the wire between your legs.
Can you bring it closer to the people?
Okay, Warren, why don't you speak to just see if they can hear you?
Is it any better out there, Donna?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so repeat what you were, so I made this suggestion and you had a reaction to it, that we invite them into,
I just said that it sounds inherently political to invite politicians to a non-political map drawing session. I just don't know if it exposure to see the weird. I understand the lady, inviting the names to be part of the process, but this is a non-political process, I thought.
well, when they're not specific enough, in what they fed us back. I think it's a way to get them to be specific and to put it on the record. And to hear what, I mean, obviously it could tick them off by inviting them and they could turn us down. But I just feel that we need to be above board.
Mhm.
And we wanted, when this legislation that we're enacting right now was drafted and approved, it was for full transparency of the process and for a cooperative process.
Yes, very much.
So I just feel that, you know, we should be hearing directly from them as in, and ask for a collaborative session to work it out that would be limited to a small number and so that it could be managed.
If you ever log in tonight, just hypothetically, get information or
We could bring up the maps on a screen as we've done and see what they have to say.
My gut feeling is that the ones who have the greatest objection actually are interested in speaking to the.
I think so too.
Commission. Maybe we more want to speak to the MMD subject.
Well, I think, yeah, and I do think that when I say we, it would be really both, you know, members of both, you know, selected members of both the commissions.
Donna?
Yeah, I think I forgot my point at this at this point. Well, what I was going to say, yeah, as Professor Weiss said, it was really Dr. Hanley's analysis of the maps, and she looked at all of the maps that were presented, and it was her analysis that made us confident that we could suggest a 5-district map. And at one of our Saturday meetings, she actually walked us through her analysis, what she looked at, how to view the numbers, because some of us were not viewing the numbers correctly. And I'm sure if we were doing that, there are other folks that were doing the same thing. But I just wonder how many of them even listened to that meeting so that they understand what we heard that supported what we did.
Donna, could you pinpoint possibly that meeting?
Yes, I
Well,
can.
I think which it would be good for all of us to listen to that.
Yes, I can.
choose, yeah, and if we choose to send it back, it may be with, please listen to this.
Okay. No, and I know it was, I had the date, but yes, I will send it to this. I'll find it and send it when the meeting is over.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
I want to clarify one thing. There's been talk about maps that had 5 MMDs and maps that had 7 MMDs. And it sounded like there wasn't never really a 6 MMD map. Well, we printed one at a time, Junior, for the public hearing on June 30th. It did have 6 MMDs in it. So I know there's at least one 6 MMD map out there. I suspect it really did not have a full workup from Dr. Hanley about how strong or viable or whatever those 6 were, or else it became part of the larger discussion of 6 versus 7 that then resulted in 7. But we did at one point have a draft. I think it was what we thought was a final draft, but it turned out not to be a final draft of what the map was, and it did have 6 MMD.
Mm-hmm.
And to that point, the rest of the commission, the people working on maps, we configure the rest of the districts of the county based on that map of 6.
Right. But I think that I would be reluctant to take any action really to move us forward before the MMD manages to come together and just and wrestle with it as well.
I agree with you there. I do think we have to do due process. And that should happen before we, but I also think that we've been meeting separately. Obviously, the MMD has joined our meetings. But I think when we come to where we're going to be at the end of this portion, that we do it together, that we meet together and make the decision together. That's just my wish.
Yeah, and I would suggest also that to the extent that the budgets can be adjusted, we get Dr. Hanley to join as many conversations. That would save a lot of time and questions.
Well, excuse me. When you say make the decision together, are you saying that you all want to be part of the decision making as far as the MMD districts?
No, my personal opinion is that the MMD should act as they feel best and then come back and have a coordinated discussion with the ACRC together. And so that there can, I mean, we have always trusted you in making the best decisions for what's right with the MMD. But because we are at a major crossroads and we together need to go back, I just think that after you've come to where you are, that we have a discussion with both teams together. That's my personal opinion.
That meeting would be primarily for the MMDs to explain or to show you how we came up with whatever we come up with, right?
And your rationale, sure.
Yeah, okay. It wouldn't be for you to say, well, we don't agree, we think you should do this.
Well, I have to say that we do have the power.
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
We do have the power in the redistricting commission to take the decision that's made by the MMD subcommittee and override it. We do have that power. I personally don't think we should do that, but that is a power that is given to the districting commission. And then we have to not only justify any change, but we have to transmit your full report from the MMD as it was sent to us, so the legislature can see that as well.
Okay. All right, well. Basically, if the MMDs come up with a new map and it's not a map that you all, I don't want to say like, you saying you can override that map?
Yeah, that's in the local law. Tom explained it exactly. I mean, we have, the commission, us folk here, we have the right to accept that and or, Tom said it great. I mean, we're not forced to take your 5 map, your 6 map, or your 7 map.
And it's not like we're looking to do that, but we'd rather us be in concert with each other.
Right, we would submit what you sent to us, as Tom said, your full report. So then it will be clear that you said X and we said Y. So nothing is undercover.
Okay.
What I was going to raise is we sort of have this room here for Monday nights, or we've been successful in getting it for Monday nights for our meetings. It isn't perfect, but outside of maybe the calendar, it's probably the best situation we've got. And I know the MMD is looking for a place to meet. Now, this is not Albany, this is Guilderland, but I don't know how you folks feel about it. They've been very nice to us here, getting us set up. And I don't know about the time of Monday evenings. That may be not possible for the members of the MMD, but I am suggesting that this would be available if you want it.
And we could look at alternative times too. We haven't locked in at Monday nights, although that's.
Do we have locked in Monday nights? We have not. Okay.
It's been one meeting at a time, but depending on the schedule of the library, they might have it some other night.
And I did mention, to Marie that, and I've known this from my work with the League of Women Voters, that to reserve this room usually requires a Guilderland resident. However, in the past, I've had discussions with them about the fact that what we were doing was across the county and they accommodated. So that was several years ago. And since then, the league now has a, you know, a person in Guilderland who we go through to request. But I think that, you know, even if you
I'd be
lay,
willing to be your agent,
yeah, exactly. That's exactly where I was going. Leif could do it on behalf of the MMD.
correct.
Are there special accommodations in there? Because we've used libraries in the city of Albany for like all of our community engagement events, but are there special acoustics in there that are different than the other libraries that we've used in the city?
So Kashana, I think that it's by library to library. It might be different and I can't speak to it, but in this library for tonight, we finally got set up in a way that allows us to hopefully have everyone on. You can see us, you can hear us. It's live streamed without much problem. I don't know if the other libraries can accommodate that. And we did it with a library computer.
Okay.
And I do know this Guilderland Library, right now, I think there's 2 other meetings going on in other rooms where I know some of the other libraries don't have as many available spaces based on me scouring the Capital District libraries from time to
I
time.
believe they have 2 meeting rooms, and this is the smaller of the 2. There's actually a larger meeting room they also make available at no charge. So we go to the resident.
They tend to have more availability, I think, because of the number of rooms.
Is there anything further to be accomplished by continuing this discussion now before the MND has had a chance to meet?
Well, I would like to talk about time. You know, I heard earlier that they can't really do anything because their mapper is out of town until October 28th. Well, we could do mapping without our mapper, you know, can move this process along a little bit more than once a week or every Monday, because before you know it, 7 weeks is going to go by before, you know, the public hearing there 56 days. So I think we got to sit down a timeline and stick to it rather than just, well, okay, we'll let them do what they need to do and we'll do what we need to do. Before you know it, we're out of time and we're here to finish.
So I guess I want to ask that question to the MMD committee, because it was very different in the mapping process between the ACRC and the MMD, where the ACRC actually manipulated the maps. But I think in the MMD case, it was more the mappers who manipulated the maps. Are you guys feeling that you can't look at maps and start to get into it without the mappers, or is that something based on the tools that you could do?
Well,
I don't know, because the mappers basically did what we asked them to do. They did all of that. I personally have not tried to use the tools to manipulate any of the maps because the mappers did it for us.
Neither have I.
Neither have I. I don't think any of us did. I think we primarily relied upon the mappers since we were paying them. It was our understanding that we were paying them and they were doing what we requested.
Yeah.
So I don't think,
Yeah.
I know I never went in and tried to draw my own map.
Question in terms of chicken and egg, did the analysis precede the mapping, or did the mapping drive the analysis by Dr. Hammond?
No,
The mapping drove the analysis.
yeah,
The
well,
maps were first and then the analysis.
well,
Mhm.
two things happened. First was that Dr. Hanley took the current map and
Yep.
had to build a database and then
Mhm.
analyze the current map. After that was done, then she was able to take the draft map and then run the reformulated, reconstituted election results to see what the results of the database analysis would do in the newly configured districts. And that's how she could then tell what kind of candidate would be elected from the proposed district. So it's always a two-step process.
This is a crazy question, really, on my part. Can that process be reversed? That is to say, can Dr. Hadley look at the precincts, use the data she currently has, and start reconfiguring boundaries and come up with?
Now, she doesn't do the mapping, she does the analysis.
Okay.
We actually discussed that in a different locality today when it was asked.
Well,
So,
I'm not on the MMD, but I'm just raising the question.
right, yeah, I understand.
I'm gonna bring up another issue, and that is money.
Yeah, I was going there.
We have contracts with both mappers. I
Mhm.
don't know about the MMD's mapper, but I know our mapper has indicated that we've reached the limit of what they had anticipated doing for us for the agreed upon sum of money, including the contract amendment we put through. The body that approves these contracts has authority to approve contracts up to $100,000. The mapper for us has a contract that currently stands at about $66,000. So there's a bit of room there for them to see an additional expense as they add on to their contract. I believe the latest number I saw for Hartbridge was something around $84,000, $85,000.
I believe that's correct. I didn't bring it
So
with me.
they're within 15,000 of being where the limit will apply. Now, there's other ways to approve contracts. Any contract over $100,000 goes to the county legislature. And I really don't think the legislature will turn that down, but it takes longer to get the approval. I'm hoping that our mappers will be understanding if we come to an agreement with them on additional services, that we can't execute a contract right away because we have an approval process we'll have to go through. But I think the thing that bothers me the most is if the Park Bridge people are completely out of contact until the 28th of October, you won't be able to even get an idea of what the cost for their additional services will be until November sometime, to say nothing of actually starting these services. And that concerns me because, you know, it's going to be a very busy month for us, I think.
I think that the MMD, I'm speaking for myself here, but the MMD could meet with Dr. Handley to at least get a better sense of the legal permutations on different kinds of maps, different percentages, just to speed things up. Then the mappers can come in later, but at least have some better parameters as to what they can work with. Now, I want to make sure the MMD subcommittee has the comfort level to understand all these shifting. I mean, the law between the not yet enforced state law and the federal law. There are a lot of moving targets here that we want to just make sure people are comfortable with, because these are concepts the county legislature itself had no idea of or didn't bother to read because it came down to, alleged vote dilution, which was really the farthest thing. It just didn't match up to their comfort level. I'll just mention while I'm speaking that the chair of this committee and I have discussed an adjustment to the law school contract as well, to see what could be done. So thank you on that.
And Tom, a question for you. I thought, is it 100,000 in total? Because once we had it approved, we talked about it going for 10%. I think it was 10%, right? Additional being a process apart. Is that right?
It's a gray area when you start talking above $100,000. I gather it has happened very rarely in the 25-year history of the contracts board. So I'm not quite sure what would happen, but I do think we need to understand that if a contract went over $100,000, it might trigger the legislature itself having to approve it, and that's a longer time frame. I don't see any problem with them approving it because they want this project done. But I think we have to recognize that it wouldn't be as quick to happen as it would be if we get it to the contracts board. Next meeting with contracts board is coming up in fairly early in November, and they have to have all the information to them by around November the 4th. So I did want to try to get that going, and I don't know whether we haven't talked to Apgeo, who is our member, about this yet.
But it's difficult to say how you want to amend a contract until you have some sense of what it is that you want the contractor to do. And none of us have any sense of that at this point, going all the way from nothing to starting over.
Yeah, in the case of our contractor, though, I know they have a software license that we've been using. I'm assuming that that's good until the end of the year, but maybe it's not, and they would need to have an additional amount there. That's the kind of question I want to ask.
In terms of hands-on though with FGO, I think we have been flying solo
We have,
and we can continue theoretically unless there's so many proprietary issues.
that's my understanding.
Except for producing what needed to be done for a report,
To the
for the
legislature.
report to the legislature. So, I mean, I agree, Larry, that, we don't know yet, but I think maybe we should at least get a definitive answer from the contracts board that if we had 10% over,
We have nothing that's of anywhere near anything coming anywhere close. The MMD may, we do not.
no, I get that, but I would just want clarification from the contracts board that if there is there's a 10% that they can reapprove, right? If they feel they have the authority to do that, even if the total contract amount exceeds 100,000.
I can try to find that out.
Yeah, just so that we know the rules of the road.
10%.
Yeah. Oh, that's true, right? Yeah.
10% of the original contract, which would not come over $100,000.
Yeah, it wouldn't come over anyway. Yeah,
But
it wouldn't
they
come over.
need to do
Right.
85,000 is their contract. They want to need that. We need to know if that's going to be in the legislature. or not.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to know the rules of the road.
But I think Larry's exactly right. We don't know.
Correct.
Or total rewrite. And that we can't get to that decision till the MMD analyzes.
Correct.
their-
Yeah, we have to wait for the
That's
MMD.
right.
Right.
And
Although with respect
That's right. I need them to come up with an answer, whether they're gonna redraw or they're gonna stand pat on the 7. So then we know which direction we're gonna go.
with respect to FGO though, can't we get an estimate or bid from them for simply doing meets and bounds and any other newspaper or print publications on the assumption that we do the rest of it? So
And I'm thinking that wouldn't be a big number.
it wouldn't be, and they're well below 100,000. But the sooner we have some numbers to work with, the sooner we can approach the country.
And now the next item on my agenda was actually the item that Jeff just mentioned, which is that Jeff has indicated that with where we are now, he anticipates that he might need an additional $1,000 to $2,000 on his contract with the commission. And so I would like to get the commission to approve a $2,000 increase in that contract, up to $2,000.
I would make that motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Leif, is there any discussion?
Well, wait a minute. I have not seen a financial report for the MMD. So I can't agree to anything for the MMD until I flush the numbers and see what the numbers tell me.
This would be the contract.
This is for us, it's for us.
No, hold on. So is there two contracts?
There are two contracts. Remember,
Yes.
Remember we had a committee. We had a budget committee, and we were looking at the both contracts. Looking at both funding for both groups individually, and then combining the two. And I haven't seen a report on the payments. Have you gotten that report?
Yeah, I can share that with you. I shared it with Larry, and I thought I did send it out to the commission email address. So
I
you
didn't-
should have received it on the commission email. But in any case, we have $91,000 left in the balance for both groups combined,
Is that total? That's for both groups.
for both groups. And I think each group we roughly $40,000 or $50,000 of our expense has been shared. Common
Right.
expense because of advertising. It was common. and hearings that were held in jointly and so forth. So the original breakdown between the two entities, the commission, the subcommittee, is no longer as relevant, if you will. But there's enough money to go around for both groups. And certainly, if we can do grant for our legal contract, there'll be room for you to commit additional dollars on your legal contract as well.
You wasn't, I didn't see it on my, what's the name? Could you email it to me? You have my personal email address?
Well, Larry, we're using the Albany County email addresses, right?
Yeah, but he was sending it to me on both systems. Okay. Because I went down to my
I can
computer.
do
I
that.
have to go check.
I can do that, Larry. I'll do that after the meeting.
All right, thank you, because I haven't seen where we stand in terms of the MMD
Right.
funding.
I apologize for that. I assumed everybody on the MMD.
It hasn't really changed since the final report was written, has it?
Correct.
And all of the financial numbers were in the final report.
Right. There's been some minor tweaking to those numbers, but not more than a couple $1,000. We're still on the order of $90,000 balance.
Yeah, that's what I thought I saw. Okay.
And the breakdown between the two entities is not, it's not that different. But
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the $1,000 or $2,000 figure came from for the law school. I do know, first off, on the MMD side, and I've talked to Marie about this, but we've come to no conclusions, that for Dr. Hanley to do any more work for Albany County would cost at least about $5,000. Also about $5,000 for the law school work, which would mean for the MMD about $10,000. And I would hope that the full commission, given the amount of work moving forward now, also be somewhere in the ballpark of 10,000. I know that the mappers might have more fixed costs than I do, but it's a lot of people power at our end beyond where we thought we'd be at this point of the year.
I would amend my motion to be up to 10,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a clarification. So that 10,000, are we saying that is for the law school's work for ACRC plus MMD or just ACRC?
ACRC.
and for-
Okay. I found this on the web. See,
listening to our call.
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Professor Weiss, did you say 5 and 5? 5 for Dr. Hanley and 5 for the legal work, but that would apply to the MMD, is that
Right.
correct?
That would be only for the MMD.
Okay,
And
but
then he
what's,
said 10 for the,
For the commission.
Right.
okay, thank you. Yeah. So we're looking at $10,000.
Yeah.
Up to.
Yeah.
Up to, yeah. I second.
Okay. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have had a request to make public comments to the members of the commission at a meeting of the commission. And just to be clear, the request was made by Lars Dahl. And I know that I have mixed feelings on that. Certainly, I don't have mixed feelings on hearing Mr. Dahl's comments, but I do have mixed feelings on opening up the commission meeting to public comments. To this point, we have had public comments at public hearings, and we have had commission comments at commission meetings. So I would put that topic out for any discussion that anyone wants as to whether, because I think that as much as I value the input from Mr. Dahl, I think that we can't really say that we're going to make a special case for Mr. Dahl. So if we're going to have a public comment period, then I think that we need to revise how we've been doing things in the past and have a public comment period in our public meetings. And if anyone wants to make a comment or wants to talk to the commission, they can plan on doing it during that period of time. But it is an ongoing public comment period. I'm probably not in favor of that myself, but I think that those are the two options. Is that comments can be made to the commission, obviously, in writing, email works.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. We didn't really adopt a policy about that, but we let our email address be out there.
Right.
The stuff we got in has come mostly around the public hearings comments. Although I think some came in early that was not that way.
And even after.
Yeah.
We didn't really adopt a policy, but it is, I guess, been our default policy that it will send us comments, we will read them, and they will become part of the record, right?
Yes, and I do think that based on the current situation, we need to change our website. If we want to, I believe, and this is something we need to decide, that we should continue at this point to accept public comments. And now that it's been rejected, and that we need to change the website
To accept it.
well, it wasn't through the website, but to state that given the rejection by the legislature, that we are again taking public comment.
Not specific to a public hearing, but just accepting.
As
public
we
comment.
always were, we were always open to hearing from the public.
You're right.
I thought that was the case.
Well, yes, in writing is at minimum. I think the second question on the table is whether we, from what Larry is saying, whether we want to accept public comment at the beginning or end of our meetings, as is done in a lot of governmental meetings. And that's a question for us to decide. But if we could first see if we agree and make a motion that we change the website to accept public comments again.
I didn't realize we had stopped, but it makes sense once the report was complete, that we did stop. So I would second that motion to, once again, accept public comments. Which is basically people sending us emails. right?
Correct. It just says if you want to comment, yep.
It just ridiculous.
Yes, and in fact, we should, separately, a topic is updating the website with what has happened.
The motion has been made that we indicate on our website that we are again taking public comments. Is there any further discussion of that motion? If not,
Second on it?
yes, on the second.
Oh, okay.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And is that likewise, I make a motion that we update the website with an update to the situation at hand, which may include a link to the legislative meeting where it was turned down.
Motion. I mean, that's a lot. We just updated. the
We
website.
have, but I just want to be, does anyone see any issues with us doing that?
None.
No,
Okay.
it could have been probably the prior motion, but, updates, current situation, et cetera.
Okay,
It's all good. Too late for that.
Do you want a motion on having a public comment period or whatever during the meetings? My personal feeling is that if we allow people to speak at our meetings, given we're under a 60-day time deadline, and I know there are, for example, legislators who would love to give us their opinion of what it is that we're doing, and so on. So I could see a significant portion of pretty much every meeting, especially if we choose to not meet for a couple of weeks, being apt to be devoted to having public comments. And I don't think that's the best use of our time. My recommendation would be that we accept written comments as we already moved to do by way of the website. But I do not think we should be having a portion of the meeting dedicated to public comments, because I don't frankly think we've got the time with anything else we've got. And I would make.
I'm not sure.
I think different. anything to move this process along as best possible. I wouldn't take them from Zoom. I wouldn't open up to Zoom so we have 50 people. If they've taken the time to come to our meeting, we can give them 5 minutes. We can give them 10 minutes. I don't think that is gonna overwhelm our workload. If we give anybody that wants to come to the meeting and have 5 minutes of discussing, that way we actually have a chance to understand what they mean rather than get an email and say, geez, what do you really mean here? What is, and if you're talking about the legislators, I want them in here. If they've got a problem with them, get in here and tell us what your problem is.
I don't,
Just keep writing me an email saying, you guys are a little vague, I'm gonna vote it down. Come in here and tell us what you want.
so Mark, the only thing around that is that I think just for fairness, that people, yeah, access, exactly. That you got to allow, if we're going to do that, you got to allow people to make comments via Zoom.
Well, what do we do for 200 years before Zoom was here?
It's not up for public.
It's still up then. This time we had public, people came to the hearing and made their point. But if we're just gonna say, no, we're not gonna have it first, then we're shutting down the system.
I should have said that I anticipate we will have a public hearing again, and I expect that we will have comments about that. The thing, piece of the local law says that we make significant changes. And I think that is quite possible that we may end up with significant changes. If we do, then have to have a public hearing. Then vote it come then.
No, I understand that, but then we've already made our decision.
Right.
We've already, and.
It's input.
Yeah.
You want, we want to let the input flow.
So, okay, we put out our new maps. Come and tell us what you like. Oh, we're gonna change it again. We're gonna have another public hearing. Okay, come and tell us. Why not get them on the front end? Tell us what their problems are, what they're, so we can build them into the maps. So when we do have a public hearings, they're there to support. If we did anything wrong,
We've done that by reopening the website comments, but not letting them speak out.
So Mark's point there was that it's not a dialogue in a way if they just are submitting comments. Is that your point?
Yeah, I mean,
We've never had a dialogue.
Correct. Although I've always voted for that.
look where we are. No,
I'd like to know how everybody else is here.
I'm somewhere in between. That is to say that the reason why we're not taking any public comment tonight is it wasn't part of the notice for the meeting. So it's not an opportunity for equal access, except people that, who follow us are interested party. But I wouldn't object to having one meeting, one scheduled in advance to allow for any events or whatever public comment at the beginning of our meeting, but not every meeting. And that's kind of where I am.
And I would probably lean more towards Tom's side of the fence in that I don't think we need to have them here sort of dialogue and fish out if there's things we don't understand in the written comments. We've been doing that for 8 months or more. It seems to work, and it just doesn't seem necessary to open it up.
Well, I have yet another thinking on this in that I think we should always take written comments, and we can actually put on the website that if you'd like to do it in public, do it at our meetings in public, we can wait to hear and then make the decision. Because so we all know Laura's is engaged in a way that is very meaningful in the process. And yet I'm not sure how much of the rest of the public and or the legislators would want to come and speak. So, I mean, if we not make that decision until we hear whether there's a need for it, I don't know. Maybe I'm talking in circles here.
Well, we have a request.
Okay.
intrigued by this notion that they put out there, that we could have a meeting of the commission at which we invite people to make comments. Wouldn't really be like a public hearing, you would have to have a week in advance notice and the whole big setup and everything else. But you could provide them with the Zoom link so that they could then be easily understood in our meeting, and it would certainly be recorded on our YouTube channel.
Mhm.
And be there to see. I would really have an objection to that. But you could also do that by holding an actual public hearing at the beginning of this 60 days and another one at the end, if you've done that. That takes a lot of coordination, typically spend $2,000
Mhm.
in advertising, more than that. I don't know if I want that. I think for the public hearing, we are required to make significant changes. We gotta go the whole drill. We gotta do the legal notice, we gotta have a transcriber, we gotta have everything set.
It's a formal public
It's a
hearing.
formal public hearing. But to have a meeting where we say. early
Public
on in the
comment.
cycle, that we like to have people, with open mic, to kind of speak their mind about where they'd like to go with this. It's not really a public hearing, but it would be like a public comment portion or a public comment meeting. Especially if we're saying, you don't have any other reason to have a meeting, next week, for example. I think we want to get something in the website so people know that it was happening. I think we want to let the legislature know that we were going to do this. So you probably want to give a couple weeks notice on this, but I can be persuaded to do that. But I think as far as our regular meetings, like the one we had tonight, where we don't have any public comment period as part of the meeting scheduled in advance, and probably notice that people might want to make that comment. Or we could be accepting comments. I think we should allow them to submit them to the website.
So we're saying at selected meetings, we would announce in advance that we'll take public comment and we could time it, right? So that,
Yeah, no, I think we take it another step, because I love the idea, I really do. And taking it to the point where we request, we'd like, and I would personally send it to every legislator saying, here it is, before we jump back into this whole process. Here's your night, let us know exactly what you're thinking, what your concerns are, and then, if none of them come on. Second, we go back, and we send it back to them and say, there you go.
Did Professor Weiss put something in the chat? Kind of
yeah, he did.
warning us about.
I don't think it was a warning at all, actually. No, I think it wasn't. I'll read it into the record so that it's local law legislative intent says the commission shall be transparent, accountable, and function independently without the undue and improper influence of sitting elected officials and their representatives. The commission's work shall be accomplished through a professional process that invites experts in the area of redistricting, law, county geography, and other important elements that are key to securing a credible, responsive, and accountable redistricting process and outcome.
You go back up to the fourth sentence right there.
Local law legislative intent says the commit.
Just put that right there. Without undue improper influence from sitting elected officials and their representatives.
So undue and improper.
That's what I'm not worried. If they're-
I don't think it's undue or improper to have them speak. Professor Weiss, do you agree?
Yeah, I think what you want to do is have any communications in the public, not to have direct conversations with them in private. Just given the optics here. There's also one reference, I think it's in section J in the local law that it says something similar. I'll try to pull it up and see what it says, unless one of you have it quicker than I will.
Section J.
I think it's in J. So I looked at it earlier today.
Yeah, JHI. J, yeah, I highlighted something myself.
Section K talks about comment periods and public access to information.
It is section J3, probably the one you were referring to, Professor Weiss. As it
Uh,
talks about-
yeah, yeah.
I'll
That-
read it in if you guys want.
Yeah, please.
The commission and the MMD subcommittee will work in a process that allows for timely input from the county legislature and its members and allows for the maximum amount of public participation, engagement, and comment. The commission and the MMD subcommittee will be committed to full transparency and accountability, including the timely posting of its meetings, agendas, minutes, data, and other relevant and information is included in the body of the work of the commission and the MMD.
I love that paragraph, give the invitation to legislators to speak. at
Me
one of our
too.
meetings. That paragraph right there, saying, I told him, said, here's your chance. We're required to give you that chance. In public, in the state.
So I'm looking,
And how is that different? than
That's
what we-
I.
For tonight,
I agree.
We sent them
That's
the notice of
J3.
public hearing. We invited them to come.
But I don't think they, I don't think.
well, I will say publicly that several, I shouldn't say several, more than one legislator came and said to me that they were told they should not be providing, that they couldn't engage with us.
Mhm. Same here.
Probably more like.
Same here.
A lot of restrictions on legislators speaking to members.
Can't hear you.
I think that concern.
Same here.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little better.
you're on the side, I think that's fine.
I think the concern was that legislators not try to speak directly to members of the commission. And some of them may have interpreted that as a warning not to ever say anything to the commission. But we've certainly heard from several legislators at those public
Yes,
hearings.
we did.
No two ways
Yes,
about
we
it.
did.
I do think a lot of them are not motivated to speak up because they haven't seen it having a big effect on their district. At least that's my gut feeling.
So is there, first of all, with regard to a public comment period within our meetings, is there a motion that anyone wanted to put on the table?
I would move that we entertain a public comment period not to exceed 30 minutes at the beginning of one or more of our regular commission meetings. Not to exceed one. 30 minutes.
But the expectation in this is that it's not going to be every meeting,
Right, one or more, but not every.
but that could be 8.
Okay, well,
That's why I'm just.
well, I can amend the current plan to one meeting.
Well, one or more is fine, right?
If we need to, as long as we understand it's not every meeting.
Yeah, the intent is not every meeting.
Not, yeah. That's a good motion.
And-
One or more, but not every meeting.
And you said not to exceed 30 minutes, but I would add to it that they be timed comments.
Same thing as legislation, get 5 minutes.
Yeah, this,
Sign up and get 5
it's a
minutes.
friendly event.
Is there a second then? I'll second,
Okay, Patricia.
I'll second his proposal.
Can you hear me?
Congress.
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, Larry, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, before you all vote, I've been trying to ask this question. Mr. Dawes, I think the email I saw, he requested to speak to both committees, not just your committee, but our committee also. Is that not true?
Yes, but we don't have any.
Authority to
authority
answer
to
for
do
you.
your process.
Yeah, that's what, but I know you don't, so I'm just thinking that we, as the MMD, we will have to go through the same thing to decide whether he is allowed to speak at our committee meetings.
That's correct.
Okay, because I thought I saw where he wanted to speak to both committees at, I don't know, as a group or individually, but I did believe I saw where he wanted to speak to both committees.
Correct.
Okay, so, all right, I just wanted to make sure because some of our committee people.
So
are
we'll
not
have to
here.
go through the same thing.
Yeah, some of our committee folks are not here, and I want to make sure when we report back to them that we got, things correct.
Okay,
Okay? So
Yes,
that,
sir.
that was my only,
Yeah,
that was my
we could
only
discuss
question.
at our meeting.
Yeah, okay,
So the motion on the table is for one meeting on ACRC, to have, and it's more than 30 minutes and it's time per person.
yes.
If 5 minutes go in there.
Yes.
No, we didn't say 5 minutes. If you want to put 5 minutes, we can, I just said it needed to be timed.
Okay,
Do we want to say 5 minutes and be more specific?
well, we have 30 is specific. We have 5 people, you know what I mean? The math is math.
No more than 5.
No more than 5 minutes?
I accept that amendment.
Anything further on the motion?
Well, I kind of like, or I'm saying, we give 30 minutes and 2 people are speaking. We have to cut them off.
You do. You have to cut them off at 5.
It's the public comment period. It's not, it's mainly to fill up, that nature of the board's action.
Just think, if we're trying to get information from them, why would we cut them off if they really, if they're,
Or get them in due processing with protection. So everyone else had to give 5 minutes, and just because I'm only here today, I get 30. That's maybe not fair.
well, you didn't come. If you showed up,
I think
If
the
you can't say it in 5
legislature,
minutes, you didn't know what it was you were trying to say.
I think the legislature used to do before they changed their process, that they would let you speak depending on the amount of time and the number of speakers.
yeah, it just makes sense,
So we could keep it at no more than 30 minutes
So
and,
maybe that builds it up to about the English teacher, but, so you give people more time to want to talk more circles. I mean, as Larry just said, you can't say what you want to say in 5 minutes. Maybe you don't know what you're trying to say.
We've been here an hour and a half.
We need to give the ability of the chair to call, to follow the time at the end, so we don't go beyond half an hour.
And the chair would have the ability to say, look, he's making sense,
so we're striking the no more than 5 minutes. We just leave it as
Fine.
that not to exceed 30 minutes at the beginning of the meeting.
Before we vote, I have another question, really, not to confound things more, but is in following up with Larry Malden's concern. Do we want to stipulate, or how do we sort out comments or concerns relative to the NMD? Because we don't necessarily want to encourage people to come in here and yell at us about the NMD districts if we have no control over it.
Well, I think,
We do, yeah.
yeah.
We have control.
And not only that, it might be more efficient, or I should say effective, if we allow them to speak at our meetings and it's recorded and available and we'll post it on the website and, and then they also can speak at the MMD. So I wouldn't limit it in any way that way. The thing that I would ask, and is something that, again, I go down an alley that I've been before, was whether there could be the commissioner's ability to ask questions or clarifications of those speaking.
It's not a public hearing, so that would probably be more reasonable to allow that.
Well, I think in the last public hearing we held, I kind of got that over on you guys, I'll say, and in the sense that can the commissioners ask questions, and it was allowed. Although we didn't really have it happen because there wasn't a need for
Are
it.
you talking about our meetings or?
Public hearing.
Let's make these new meetings.
No. No, and so I am asking you, in this public comment period, what do you think about the commissioners having the ability to ask questions of those speaking?
Absolutely. That's a fact.
I would not include it in the motion. I think from my perspective, it depends on how it's going. If there are 10 people to talk, then I think probably.
Just let me know when you're ready to leave, because I got online.
Okay, thank you.
It won't be too long.
Okay.
Other comments? Well, could we consider saying that we're going to do this public comment period at our meeting in 2 weeks from today? Are we at a point where we could actually set a date to do that?
Well, I don't think we can set a date because we have to figure out if Mondays work, but if we could say within the next 2 weeks. I think we have an
Yeah, I don't-
agenda item.
I don't know, yeah, and that's the next thing on the agenda. Figure out what are we gonna do and when are we gonna do it? But I don't think that needs to be part of this motion, but I hear you, yes. I think if we're gonna do it, I think we should do it in the relatively near future.
Yeah, especially if you don't probably have a public, if we make changes, we have a public hearing late, it would make sense to have the public comment meeting.
It's a good use of our time because there's gonna be some lead time to get things cleared up.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, we're waiting on the MMD and they're doing their thing and so forth.
I'm ready.
Okay. There's no further comments, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. The last thing that I had on my agenda was for us to figure out when this august body should come together again. I reached out to Julia, and Julia is generally available any night except Monday.
Julie's the reason we meet on Mondays. I think.
What about CETA?
Sita, I did not, Sita's tonight was a specific.
Yes, it was specific. The only other night for me is going to be Thursdays, guys.
It's the three people who actually have jobs that I think.
That's right.
Always have had to work around.
The rest
Another-
of us could do it through other hours, yes.
Yeah, but Thursday evenings is okay generally.
I am not,
Generally-
I am not available Thursdays, through, December 1st.
Okay, so that's off the table.
Well, can we have more than, I mean, we gotta move this along. One meeting once a week is not gonna work.
But there's nothing for us to do.
Until the
in future.
MMD really gets.
That is my whole thing. We gonna put, you know, if we leave here without deadlines, then we're never gonna get done. But we're gonna give the MMD a deadline to kind of move this along. Or is it just, all right, calls when you're done and then, you know, we're in November and maybe you have the holidays coming and before you know it,
I'm gonna ask this question of all of our friends who are joining us remotely. I know we haven't taken a vote on this yet, but we have 60 days and we have work that both commissions have to do. Has the MMD given any thought to perhaps trying to be done in the first 30 days of those 60 so we can have the next 30 to do our portion, or is that what this new information tonight that throws that off is the fact that your mapper is not even around for 2 weeks. But I don't know how we divide this up without there being a specific deadline at some point for us to have something from the MMD.
And I don't think it's fair to any of the four people who are here they have not in any way discussed it among themselves. I don't think it's fair to ask the question. I'm sorry, Tom. I really think that as walking into this meeting, none of us could have really figured out where the heck we were headed. I just don't know that it's fair to put the four of them on the spot.
And I agree on that because who knows when they first meet, what it is they choose to do. And is it really just Dr. Hanley, you know, or whatever? But I do want to note that, again, for the record, because it was in the chat, that
May
Donna,
23rd. May 23rd.
yes, that Donna said we should all watch the May 23rd MMD meeting with Dr. Hanley. So I know, Mark, where you're coming from. I'm a task-driven person.
you don't have a deadline.
I get it, but I think we have to let them first talk about the pathway forward for themselves. Who knows? Maybe we'll shove it back and just write something.
One thing I'd like them to take into account is what Larry brought up earlier. If we go from 7 to 6, are we packing? You know?
Yeah, let them talk it through.
And
Let them talk it through. Yeah.
Let me offer
Back
this
to the
as-
meetings.
As a
Okay.
suggestion. We're talking about having a meeting with a public comment period. I'm thinking maybe a week from this Thursday.
But Dr. Professor
I
Weiss,
understand that Jeff is not available. But I'm not sure
We need him.
that matters that particular night, right?
so that happens to be October 27th.
Yes.
That's my birthday. I won't be here. However, I'll watch it on, on Zoom, on YouTube. But go forward. I'm serious. I'm serious.
I said 2 weeks from tonight, that's Halloween. So we're picking up
I'll be out of town.
tonight.
I like the timeframe of the 27th. In part because I'm leaving town on the 29th. But another thought, I mean, we can't impose any kind of deadlines on you. I respect that. I appreciate that. But could we invite them to our meeting on the 27th?
They're invited to everyone.
And beyond that, can we, maybe this is a remark from the chair, request an interim report or progress report or some kind of signal from them about where they're going?
Well, and Marie is generally here, and Marie always lets us know where they are. I don't know that that's really.
We need to get that formal. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, fine.
So the question is, when are we, so with hearing that Julia is never available on a Monday, but everyone else is.
Figure that out when we get to the next meeting.
Well, I mean, how are we going to figure it out?
Wednesdays. Just, Tricia can't be on the 27th or Wednesday nights. I know we normally like Thursday. Is there an alternative?
I have a regular commitment on Wednesday night, but I can see about changing it once, but gone a regular process going forward, I'm not sure that I can. Because it's just too meaningful for me to do
We've
that.
gotta have, Steve and we've gotta have Julia. I'd like to say we've gotta have Joan in on this, but Joan just is out there. And sometimes we hear from her in unexpected ways.
So Julie.
And I take it back, how about, I am good almost all Tuesdays. Almost all. I have some where I have a conflict.
So I don't care, Thursdays. Cedar and Julie, really, if they can make Thursdays.
No, Professor Weiss can't.
Oh, yeah.
So it's either we do a one-off without Professor Weiss on a Thursday, or we keep it on Mondays, I think.
Well, the one-off we can do on Thursday because it's just a one-off for public comment.
Well, it's not entirely that, but that I expect it could be the bulk of it.
Mhm.
That's 10 days from now. But
Right.
enough time to get the word out.
I think so. I mean, and there's a question of, whether we want to do some sort of public announcement, just in terms of a press release.
My thought is, if you put it on the website, people that are interested are going.
That's what's known as a pull instead of a push. So when you're communicating, a pull means you have to actively go out and search it, where a push is you're alerting people to the process. Now we can take all of the email addresses where we've gotten comments before and do a push.
I think too, I would not be surprised if some of these legislators are not going to be discouraged from speaking their minds now that they've had to vote publicly on this and everything else. Might have been some earlier discouragement of saying to them, just let them be, don't try to interfere with them and everything else. I think that's out now, and I suspect we're going to hear a lot more legislators. Certainly some legislators were never shy about speaking at the public hearings and others. Are we still looking though at the 27th, even though we know we cannot?
Yeah, I think anyone can manage this setup here. You don't need me for the technical because the library has been really good. I just need to give a login to the Zoom account to somebody.
And you do.
No, it actually had you re-authenticate the Zoom account to touch. It's already linked there. The two of them are already linked together. So,
You have a motion on the table.
Well, it's not, it wasn't a motion, it was a suggestion. 27,
No.
we can get the room.
And you have that be public comment.
And have public comment at the beginning of that meeting.
Maybe we could ask Julia, or I could do it in a doodle poll.
it's gonna, that's, yeah, that's,
For a regular.
why don't I try, asking her right now if
Yeah,
she's
she could do
available.
And how are we gonna notify the legislators?
I think we can do a push. I think we can do a push. So, no, I would do a push to basically anyone who came in where we had an email address and include the legislature in it. So
Which
it's,
means that I send it to Nicole and ask her. to
Yeah.
send it.
Now. They'll get it now. No, it's not costly, you gotta do it well.
well, we could do a very easy way to do it.
Send it to their,
You can do a letter to the editor. It's very easy. You don't have to do a press release. You can, no, you just do it as soon as whenever, and then it might catch the eye of the editor and they might do follow-up.
And they have a thing where they list upcoming events and stuff.
Yes, there is. Actually, I'm heavily into that more than I was in the past. So there is calendars. There are a lot of online calendars.
Are we settled on the 27th?
I think so.
I'm looking at the clock.
Right.
I know, we gotta
Yes.
conclude.
Who are you talking, Julia?
I just texted Julia, but obviously it's two.
Let's see this.
No, Sita, I had conversation with Sita. She has an unusual circumstance. No, just Monday nights are good. It's just tonight.
Now, see if she can.
Oh, okay. She might be at 9:30, 9:15, maybe not. Maybe she's available at 9:15. Okay, so shall we say that we're shooting for October 27th? Unless there is concerns about,
7:30.
Yeah.
And Lakeville, at the
Oh,
library.
yeah, I'll get on that right away.
Now, see if you go down to the question box, you want to just give us some tonight, or do you want to say something?
or both.
I can also say something off the record after this is concluded.
Okay,
Is there any further business?
So our next meeting is the 27th at 7:30 here.
That's the plan, all right. Mr. Klingon, do you have a motion to make?
Yes, I would move to get you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Leif. All in favor? Aye.
aye,
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Good night.
thank you.